Let's have a look at another example of modeling real-time assets here. I'm going to open up an example scene called Example03 BrokenWall. Alright, so what I have here is a pretty simple object. It's basically a planar object, and it has a texture very similar to the example we saw before. And it's got some geometry that's chipped into it, as you can see here. Okay, this is another wall object from the warehouse scene that the player gets to walk up to and look at up close. So we want to make sure that this object has some geometry modeled into it. So you can see here that I modeled in all these different big cracks. Okay, so all the big cracks and damage on the wall I modeled in. For this big one down here, I didn't model in this long strip right here. I just modeled in this big main area. And also you notice that there's no modeling for these small cracks over here, simply because we do have triangle limits and limitations. We can't waste too many triangles on stuff that is not important, so we need to waste our triangles on stuff that is important. So you can see how I did this here. Now let's have a look at how to actually create something like this. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Create Polygon tool, and I'm going to use Vertex Snapping, just kind of the same procedure that I did before in a previous video. Alright, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy and hide him since I don't need him, and I'm going to take this guy right here. What I want to do with this is go to Materials and assign the Broken Wall material. Alright, now the UVs are not good right now. If I look at the UV texture editor, you can see how they look. So I'll go back to Edit UVs and go to Unitize, which is going to fix the UVs up really good. Close that. The UVs are set and ready to go. So now what I want to do is I want to go up to Edit Mesh. I want to go to Add Divisions, and we have options here, so you can, if I go to Reset Settings, you can set up some options. I'm going to go to Division Levels. I'm going to set it to 2, and that's it. I'll hit Add Divisions. Now we get ourselves more polygons. Now there's a reason why I want more polygons in the middle of this object. It's going to help us to triangulate and get this thing done. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me go over to this view over here, right view. Go to texture mode. I'm going to go to lighting and say to use no lights. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use something called the split polygon tool. Alright, and the split polygon tool is pretty simple to use. Let me go to the options real quick, and let me reset the tool. Now if we use this tool, we can literally draw edges and place points on our object, almost like we were tracing out an image. So that's what I want to do. I want to trace out the areas where we see all this damage on the image, and that's it. All we need to do is trace it out. Now triangulation is very important, the way that 3D software triangulates, and this isn't just a Maya specific thing, this is for any piece of software that works with polygons. You have to pretty much start at an edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off maybe at that corner up there and then work my way down here. But you notice that I can't literally drag onto the object. I have to go from edge to edge, which is obviously no good. Okay, so in order to get around that problem, we go over here to the options, and what we want to do is we want to turn off split only from edges, because when it's on, I'm going to have something like this, and that's no good. Okay, so let me undo that real quick. So what I want to do is I want to take off the split only from edges option, and once I do that, I can come in here and I can start to literally trace and draw on top of the actual image. So I'll right click to end that creation right there, and now I'm going to go ahead and create another one over here. So place the amount of geometry that you need. Don't get too crazy with it though. Place only the amount of geometry that you really need. So you want to make sure you keep this nice and clean. If you don't do a good job of placing the geometry in a way that Maya prefers, then you're going to end up running into some problems. And let me see if I can demonstrate that. See right there? This whole split right there was created, but then the split right here didn't work. That's because Maya doesn't like it when you create, let me see over here. If you create a split that doesn't triangulate properly, Maya will simply reject it. And it can be kind of frustrating if you don't understand what's happening. So look at how I did this split, and if I right click to end it, it's going to delete it. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're new to this, it may end up frustrating you Okay, let me do this. Let me come over here, and I'm going to do that. Come in here. Finish tracing this over here. And there we go. So just practice around with it a little bit and you'll start to understand it. Okay, so this is pretty much done. Let me actually clean this up a little bit right there just so it triangulates a little bit better. Alright, so I went ahead and got this done. So once you're happy with doing this, and the idea is to do the same thing for these other big cracks, but I think you get the idea. I'm not going to do the other cracks because it's pretty much the same procedure. So I'll let you go ahead and take care of that. So what I want to do is I want to take these polygons that are right here, and I'm going to control right click and go to edges. Now it's going to select the edges that are on the border of this thing, and what I want to do is I want to deselect those edges in the middle. So I just want the border edges that outline those polygons. That's the only thing that I want. And what I want to do now is I'm going to go to bevel. Let me reset the options here. I'm going to hit bevel. It's going to go ahead and bevel. Now if I go to the offset and I increase it, you notice that the UVs get messed up. Even though I have my preserve UVs option on, the UVs are still going to get distorted, so that's no good. But here's a little trick. If we come into segments and we add one segment, the UVs suddenly get fixed. And this is just the way it works. This is pretty typical behavior in most 3D software. So the UVs are not so distorted anymore. For the most part, they're not distorted in most areas. Although I could see maybe a little bit of distortion out here. I could probably fix that myself manually, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. It's no big deal. Alright, so what I can do now is simply go to face mode, take the polygons that are in the middle here. I'm going to go back to my perspective view, and what I'll do here is I'm going to increase, I'm going to grow my selection one time, and I'm going to push this in just a little bit. And then I'm going to shrink the selection and push this in a little bit more. So it creates this nice sort of beveled, cracked effect. And over here I have some edges that I don't need. So I'm going to take that little loop of edges right there and get rid of that since we don't need it. So any area where you have extra edges that are not important, they're not really contributing to the overall shape and flow of the model, go ahead and get rid of them as they're a waste of triangles. Okay? So now this object has some actual built-in geometry. The normals are a little bit messed up right now. So again, we can go to the normals menu, go to set normal angle. You could try different normal angles. Go with something that you like. This actually looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have geometry actually sculpted into the object by using texture reference. And it looks pretty good. The texture UVs aren't really too distorted for the most part. They actually look pretty good. And the object looks a little bit more realistic. Again, if I look at this from the side, you can see the way that this looks. This side is flat, doesn't look too good. That side has geometry sculpted and looks much better. Once you get this in engine, it'll look really, really good. Okay, so I'm not going to do the other cracks. It's the same exact procedure, so it's really repetitive. So what I would suggest is for you to go ahead and take some time and do this yourself and see how the technique works out for you.